This is what the feedback looks like from the guys when you ask them for dimensions. Um, we're trying to figure out where this window opening is because we're putting 3 beams across to tie through this wall right through it. And this is a wall that got 156 and a half was what it is now, but when we gave them a number before, it was like this height here. And since we didn't know that this 10 feet existed in the floor, they tied it to the height that was supposed to be and ended up with that that slope rather than the slope of the solar panels, which is the latitude. So they sent us some dimensions of what things actually are as built, and we're going to alter the drawings to match. This is the northeast corner. This is the bottom half of the door jamb, and you can see the shape of the jamb and the stop. This is our round window. And this is a pretty good close-up of what the forms actually look like. Noteworthy in here is these people, ones that are sticking out through holes in the form. And then they bend sideways 16 inches, one to the left, one to the right, left, right, left, right. And this is how we tie a perpendicular wall to make like a T-joint. Anyway, this is how much bar is sticking up on the northwest corner. This is the one that's still at the wrong slope. Just standing back, looking at how much rebar we use. This is a couple of sets of staging, maybe only 2. I think only 2. And this would have been the northeast corner. You can tell the northeast because it's got a door. There's no door on the northwest. Okay, that's a crocodile box. You got your basic piece of phenolic board the size of the opening you want. And we're not going to show look at it. Not to scale. That's the window and the doors. And the wall is drawn about 3 times as big as it is. Okay, here's these boxes, and they're set in for the for 2 of the beams. There's another small one goes right in here. It's these are like a 14 by 18 inch beam. That's the outer concrete. That's not the rebars. That's the size of the beam. And those are going to fit through this wall and have sort of a nail head of concrete on the outside, earthquake protection. This one you have to have for the next lift. 4 1/4 inches of it is in the next lift. The rest of it will be up into the next set of forms. We don't have the box over here, so they're going to have to put the diamond wheel on the angle grinder and just cut across the top strips like 3/4 of an inch apart, and then bust them out with a hammer. It's for being as hard as this black rock is, I'm amazed they can cut it at all. But it cuts fairly well with a diamond wheel. I mean, I could make 10 cuts across there in maybe 20 minutes. And they'll have to make about 5 passes to get as deep as they need to go. That's the drawing of the thing to scale. Okay, this is from Nane, actual name Alicio Delanon Utiga. Or maybe he's just straight Utiga. I think him and the older brother are before their original daddy died and their mother remarried. This is the back plate for the for a hole in the wall, basically. There's no shape here because this is going to be a beam poured in place right through a wall. This is two of them, one stacked on top of the other because they didn't know what to do with this part of it. So they're saying, "We did this. What did you really want?" And it says, "This is what we really want." So they put the other two pieces of this 2x3 cocoa lumber. So it's the back are screwed onto this way, and these side things are screwed in this way from the outside, all screwed from the outside. But being that this is unsupported in here, we'll be able to knock this thing, into the inside. We'll be able to knock this out because the concrete is going to pull away from it as it cures. We'll have about an 1/8-inch gap after 3 days, and then we can knock it out. And there's just two of them sitting on top of each other here. And they're apparently working under the tree out in front of the house. And that's Boyette. More pictures of the same. Okay, this is the two for the major beams. And this looks like a beam, but what it is, it just gets up to the height where the solar panel bracket goes. It gives us something to bolt it into that doesn't get affected by termites or rust. So it makes a really small bracket that we can change out if it rusts. I don't think I'll ever get around to galvanizing those. Too much chemicals in the cleaning thing. The actual electro galvanizing we could do pretty easy, but the cleaning steps and the chemicals, I just don't want any of these guys exposed to any of those kind of chemicals. Don't want to be near them myself. Oh, obviously our turkeys are free range. There's a few of them. They'll all be here in a group. They travel together. If you want to move a herd of turkeys, you go get the smallest bitty that's walking, pick it up, let them see you got it, and walk away with it. They will all follow you to wherever you take that bitty. So that's how you put them in at night. Or you can trick them with food, either way. Okay, I don't... that's just a quick catch up on some pictures here. I don't know what the... Oh, he's got a bunch of pictures I haven't posted. Their rebar always looks so organized, doesn't it? You sort of have an idea of what's coming just by looking at the rebar. This is a one-bag mixer. We did a video, I don't know, a year ago or so, on everything that's had problems with on the mixer. Everything is broke or quit or wasn't done right when it was first built. And 84 bags is the first breakdown on these mixers. And there's a little pipe spacer here on this long bolt that goes through the drum. That sets the bearing clearance on this ring gear to the pinion on the other side. They set it really loose so they guarantee it'll turn when they put it together. Unfortunately, the teeth are barely touching, and it runs making a lot of noise. At 84 bags, they tilted it over to dump it out, and it went, "Nyah," and it wouldn't turn the drum. They found if they turned it completely upside down, they could roll it by hand. Anyway, the fix is... you measure between the tip of the gear teeth and the bottom of the ring gear thing, and then give it about 2 millimeters of clearance. So it ended up, we took off 6 millimeters off the spacer on this mixer. And that's after when we checked it, we made sure the bearings were tight. There's Timken bearings on the drum. And so there was no end play in the drum bearings. That's why we figured out it was the spacer. The pinion bearings are ball bearings. If you have to take this out, you may as well just change those ball bearings while you have it apart. Take it apart, you tilt it level. Take these, ours has 2 nuts down there. There's a nut and a jam nut. Some of them only got a single nut, but we got 2. So you take the skinny nut off and then the big nut off. Have it level. You put a 2x6 piece of cocoa lumber under there with 2 guys on either end. One guy to stand in front, and this guy just pulls it out. That's a pretty loose fit in this weldment down here. So you set it on the ground, and then you have a cap on the inside that you can get at for the shaft to come out, and it just pushes out of those Timken bearings. I kind of think that while we had it apart, we changed the Timken bearings. Wasn't nothing wrong with them, you know. But once you have it apart, you don't want to do it again anytime soon. And plus, that was our first breakdown. It was only 84 bags, so we figured we were going to be arguing with this thing. But once we changed that spacer, we've had 0 problems with any of that. And I don't know, I guess we're a little over 4,000 bags on each mixer right now. This one here's probably got 5,000 on it, and the other one about 3,500. There's a bracket over here that you lock it in different positions as you tilt it, to mix it, to dump it out, to store it, whatever, the different notches you put it in. And it's some brackets that are welded on one side. The welding was fatiguing, and then the bracket itself was too thin. It was fatigued. So we made it one that bolted on so we could replace it if we had to. Just took an angle grinder and took that one off that was on there, and made one out of 2x2 angle iron, 1/4 inch thick. It'll probably outlast the frame. We have probably the only mixer in the Philippines the tires don't leak on. When you buy these things, the tires are used tires on used rims. Ours, on this particular mixer, they have the same tread on both sides. You're not guaranteed you'll get that. You'll get 2 tires, and you can about guarantee they're both going to leak. Apparently these ones never came off the rims, and they weren't leaking to start with. Anyway, they were pumped up hard when they brought it down the road, and nobody let half the air out of them out, and nobody told us to do it. So there's no suspension, and this thing beating and banging when it turns, it broke the bearings out of the hubs. It just crumbled them up. And we're going along one day, and a wheel fell sideways. So we set the some stacked up lumber under the axle, and we ran it that way for about a week. But then we had to move it to a different part of the property, so I had to go back and put a wheel on it. So we put new bearings in it, and a couple of days later, we were putting the next set of new bearings in it. And I looked at it and I says, you know, this thing's got leaf springs. I wonder why they don't move. It's because all the leaves were welded on both ends. There wasn't any shackle. It couldn't change length, so the leaf spring couldn't bend. So I got under an angle grinder in about 4 hours laying out in the sun. I cut all that welding off and took the springs apart and made the shackle functional and put it back up under there. And then the second mixer didn't break the bearings. It broke the stub axle right out of the end of the pipe. It was a sudden failure. That thing, it felt like it fell out of the sky when it hit. So we took the wheel off, and I went and got a piece of cold rolled. I had some leftover 115 cold rolled I sent over for another project. I just had some pieces laying in my shop. I threw them in a Balic Bion box. So I had this leftover piece. And it was long enough to make 2 new stub axles, but they fit in there about 3 inches into the pipe, and the rosette welded to that. And then they welded around the end of the pipe. And the hub, it's got Timken bearing races in it. Just like it was the front wheel off a car is what it is. And I made a seal billet replacement that pressed in where those bearing races went, and the shoulder went up against the hub, just like it pretty much The same thing except no bearings. And I put 2000s clearance on it and a grease fitting. So I don't ever intend to take these mixers down the highway again. They're on this property as long as I own them. If someday I should sell one, we'll pump some grease in there, and I'm sure we'd go 1,000 miles on that steel-on-steel, turnings. But we just did away with the bearings, and then we run the reduced air pressure. Our next failure is going to be this hub right here. So I got a QD quick disconnect hub that you can weld it or bolt it or whatever. And Browning is called an HQ1 for a QD size. I don't know what the name of this one was. It's a P1. Anyway, I got that in the hub, so it's quick dismountable. This thing is wobbled since the day it was new. The bore, it must not have been straight in the lathe or something when they bored it. And so it's got about a half-inch wobble every time it goes around. Hasn't rolled the belts upside down or anything. And then the sheave down here on the motor, that was held with one little 1/4-inch set screw with a vibration of a motor turning something big, heavy thing like that. So the set screw, it just worked into the shaft until it was loose. And then the sheave was free to wobble a little bit, and it wore the key out. And then one day we were going along, and it slung the sheave, 50 yards across the property. We found it, but the bore was so big, it was over 1/8 inch bigger than the shaft at that point. So we put it back on there. I made a key with a piece of flat bar and a hacksaw, and that put it off center, of course. And it flapped away until we finished the pour we were on. If we hadn't had the other mixer trapped on the roof, we would have used the other mixer. The spare was for the spare, but we couldn't get it other than carrying the materials up, mixing them, and carrying them back down. Anyway, we've got a couple spares of those sheaves, and drilled them at 90 degrees for 2 5/16 square-headed set screws instead of the little hex thing that was in it. And just to show we have a whole mixer, even though it's not in the picture. What is other things going on? I think we posted all these pictures here. Well, maybe not that one. That's some of the turkeys. That's about how far apart they are when they're walking around just looking for something to eat, I guess. This is the rain gutter around the house. It comes level and then goes down and across and back up. And somebody's lost their paintbrush. I'm not so sure why the plastic is on the ground to store bags and stuff. Made sense to somebody. Somehow we've never managed to skim coat this or that, even though I've suggested several times the need to do it. The idea with the gutter was that we wouldn't have dirt splash up against the wall and discolor everything. But as you can see, whatever splashes up makes this stain. So we're going to have to get some mildew-proof paint and actually paint probably all these panels, all 10 of them. Up here you see these 15 bars, 20 bars hanging out of the ceiling, and then you can see the beginning of the slot. That's where the secondary serpentine stairs are going to wind around and come out someplace up on this roof. Oh, you see these spotlight fixtures? We used a lot of those. We got about 30 of those fixtures. They're completely corrosion resistant, have a decent socket in them. Available in the Philippines, so we get to buy Philippine. Alicio. He's the southwest corner doing a selfie. Okay, that's enough for a video. Pray for all the people that are sick from COVID and hopefully we'll be able to get back sometime. Later.